Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Airline Exam Prep or AEP. In this short class, we shall try and discuss some questions or some aspects related to the Airbus A320 system, which is very important for upcoming airline examinations for type-rated first officers on the Airbus A320. In today's short class, we shall try and focus on the different kinds of lights which are visible within the Airbus cockpit, the significance of those lights, and what does it mean for you as a pilot when you see those lights in the cockpit. That's number one. Number two, questions like these, or rather examination questions, usually focus on the significance of these lights and what does it have, or rather what operational impact it has on you as a pilot. So let's try and discuss these aspects. So let's talk about the most common light which is visible within the cockpit is the white light, right? So what does the white light signify? And this, my dear students, is a direct Air India question, all right? What is the significance of the white light in the cockpit and what is the operational significance? So let's first look at the Airbus Flight Crew Training Manual, the FCTM. So if you go to the FCTM and the cockpit philosophy, you'll notice that the Airbus follows a lights out philosophy. What does the lights out philosophy mean? It means that usually when you walk into the cockpit or you're sitting in the cockpit, you're operating the aircraft, usually there should be no lights visible within the cockpit scenario. So when you see any kind of light in the cockpit environment, that means that it's either an abnormal situation or it means it's a temporary situation. All right, so let's have a look at what does a white light mean. So if you look at this page over here in this section, you will notice that the white light indicates the abnormal position of a push button switch. Remember, it's an abnormal position. All right, so let's have a look at the system here, which is the fuel. All right, so if you look at the fuel system, you will notice that anytime I switch on the system, you have the lights disappearing, which means it's normal operation. Remember, dark cockpit means nothing is wrong, right? The second I switch it off in flight, you will notice that the lights turn white. So it's an abnormal operation because normally in flight, you do not want to switch off the fuel pumps. You want the fuel to run the engines in flight. So that's why a white light is always an abnormal situation in flight. All right, so let's keep the fuel pumps on and let's look at the next color, which is easily visible or rather commonly visible in the cockpit. So that is the blue light. Now, what does the blue light signify? Let's look at the FCTM again. So the blue light indicates normal operation. Right? Remember, it's normal, it's not abnormal. A normal operation of a temporarily selected system. The key word here is it's normal operation, and number two, it's a temporarily selected system. Now, what do you mean by temporarily selected system? Let's go back to the simulator, and you will notice that a temporarily selected system, for example, refers here in this case to the APU. Right? The APU, remember, boys and girls, is not a mandatory system on board. All right? You can take off, you can operate a flight without the APU, and it is perfectly safe to operate a flight without the APU. The APU is meant to be an assist. It's an auxiliary power unit. It's auxiliary. All right? It's not the standard or the main system. It's supposed to be a backup for your electricals, for your air conditioning, pneumatics, etc., etc. So that's the reason why the APU is blue in color. All right? So you can switch off the APU and execute the flight perfectly safely. All right? Now, let's look at the next light in the cockpit, the green light. What does the green light signify? The green light indicates that a system operates normally. So remember, both the blue and the green lights are normal operations, whereas the white light is an abnormal position. All right? So the green light indicates system operates normally. Now, for example, in this scenario, the APU is operating normally, and that's why you have an avail light in green. Another scenario where you have the green light is an external power, which is telling us right now that external power is available to us, and if required, we can switch it on, right? So at this point, you should pause and think to yourself, what is going to happen? What is the color of the light when I switch on external power? Remember, it's a temporary system, right? External power is not always on at all times, so the color will be blue. Let's try it out. There you go. The color is blue in color, all right? So there you have it. You know what these colors mean. White means an abnormal position, which it's not supposed to be on in the cockpit, right? So you put it back on. Blue indicates a temporary operation of a system. Temporary, that's the key word. Blue is temporary. And finally, green is normal operation of a system. APU is available, and therefore it is green in color. All right, let's try and solve, or rather, let's try and predict what the color of a light would be in, for example, let's say the ram air. Okay, so remember, the ram air, if turned on, indicates it's not a normal operation, right? In a normal situation, you would not turn on ram air, right? Ram air basically means that you're opening up a panel or a vent to allow outside air to enter the aircraft, all right? Normally, the outside air is filtered through the air conditioning system. So when you turn on the ram air, remember, it's not a normal operation. It's an abnormal position, right? And therefore, the ram air is white in color. All right. You will see this again in the FCOM as well. Let's try and see what the FCOM says. So the FCOM agrees with what we have just discussed, that the ram air push button comes on in white color, right? The on color comes on in white. So this is how you as a pilot can interpret how the colors in the cockpit have a significance on you as a pilot and the operational significance of these colors. I hope this small lesson has helped you understand the various facets of the Airbus A320. If you have any queries, please feel free to contact our phone number. It is 9987375473, and we shall ensure that you successfully pass any airline examination upcoming in the future. Thank you for choosing Airline Exam Prep, or AEP.